Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega, and I'm here to talk about happiness because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about happiness in government, and it's probably going to be our most important show because, well, it's the idea is that, like, as together, working together as a government, as a people, we could probably do more to increase our level of happiness and, you know, to promote the idea of happiness than in any other way. Okay, I just want to first go over why I'm actually doing a show on happiness in government. I think, you know, the main reason is, like, you know, again, I presented this in the first show. While about 89% of us here in the United States are happy, our level of happiness is really only 69% out of 100 on average. And you know, then also, like, we're only happy about 54% of the time. And according to Martin Seligman, one of the foremost psychologists of all time, really, at any given time, about 25% of us are actually depressed. So, so, you know, work on happiness, I think, will really benefit us as individuals and the country as a whole. Okay, I first want to explore the role of government because, you know, this is important. Basically, our government exists to promote the welfare of us as a people, you know, to promote it's kind of like the greatest good or the greatest happiness for the greatest number. And basically, you know, we the people are the government, you know, aside from special interests, you know, we really decide what the government should do and what it shouldn't do. You know, if we decide to explore space, you know, we do that, or we can decide to build highways or create national parks. You know, pretty much what we as a people decide is what our government does. In the past, the government has taken on great initiatives, preserving and protecting the political freedoms and the individual freedoms of the population. It's had our government has had you know, just initiatives for children's rights, for women's rights, for rights of minorities. We've had extensive programs basically assuring that everyone's taken care of in their old age, you know, through Social Security. And then we have a Medicaid program that pretty much assures that we are you know, cared for in terms of our physical and medical needs. There are other, you know, initiatives that the government has created. Our war on drugs and now the new war on terrorism. So pretty much, you know, anything that we as a people decide we want to devote our attention to is what the role of the government is. And then the other idea is that everything the government does really implicitly is for our happiness. You know, whatever, all these things that I just mentioned, the ultimate purpose of all of them really is to ensure the greatest happiness for the greatest number, and not just the majority, but for us as individuals, minorities and all. Okay, let's see now. You know, basically, the federal government, like, we're having an election in 2004, and basically the kinds of things that get talked about in these elections are things like lowering taxes, you know, and that's based on the idea that, well, you know, if we have more money, we're going to be happier. Unfortunately, you know, 40 years of research on happiness has demonstrated that money really doesn't affect our level of happiness very much. You know, just a little. I mean, if we're at the poverty line, then it becomes a bit more significant. But for most of us, it just really isn't that important. Education is something else that the government, that politicians talk about during elections, and you know, again, with education, it's been shown through many years of research on happiness that education really doesn't influence our level of happiness very much. Knowledge doesn't really influence happiness much. Again, with healthcare, probably in this election, healthcare will be a major issue. Not just, well, yeah, because of healthcare, but also to try to save money if we can. But again, the research over the last 40 years demonstrates that that while health is somewhat important in helping us to be happy, it really is not very important. And that's really good news for those of us who aren't very healthy, you know, because the idea is that happiness is really available to all of us, regardless of our level of health. Okay, our federal government has basically 14 departments, and again, all of them are pretty much, they indirectly help to make us happier. Like, for example, our transportation department helps get us where we need to go, you know, both for work and leisure, and that's important. You know, the faster we can get places, the more we can do, both for enjoyment and business. We have a Defense Department, and we have a new Department of Homeland Security. And these departments are very important because they prevent others from taking our happiness from us. You know, they really protect us. And again, the ultimate goal of these departments is to ensure that we as a people are as happy as we could possibly be. Education Department is another. We educate our kids, and you know, while ostensibly education is generally for the kids, I think to a great extent it's really for society as a whole. It really ensures that we have a workforce, because there's a lot that needs to be done, and our education system prepares our children to be ready to enter the workforce with the kinds of skills necessary to keep our very technological, sophisticated society working properly. Okay, but see, all these departments indirectly are designed to help us with our happiness. But what I want to promote in this show is that I believe that our government should actually be doing something to directly help us as a people become happier, because again, happiness is our real purpose in life. You know, it's really the main. It's why we wake up each morning. It's why we're living, really. So, and the other thing is, like, on the last program, I began a series of 3 programs that I'll devote to experiments that were designed to demonstrate that it's relatively easy in a relatively small amount of time to raise one's level of happiness through training. You know, psychologists started studying this back in the late 70s, and they determined that really, without much effort, one can significantly raise one's level of happiness in as little as 4 weeks, for example. Okay, so basically the first thing I think that I'd like to suggest is that we really should have a Department of Happiness. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. I know it sounds like a very idealistic, utopian idea, but when you consider that the purpose of our lives is happiness, it just, you know, it just makes sense to directly approach that aspect of our lives. And although this show is about happiness, I'd also like to point out that, like, our government generally, you know, we as a people value goodness. You know, we religiously, socially, you know, for our families, for our friends, for ourselves. Goodness is very important to us, and actually goodness is generally somewhat important to happiness. And the way our government addresses goodness in general is that we have our Department of Justice. So basically that will punish us when we do wrong, which I suppose is you know, an incentive for us to do right. But I think with the Department of Happiness, I think we could probably benefit very much from a Department of Goodness that that through education, through various means, helps us understand goodness, so that we don't have to resort to the Justice Department and all that. Okay, let's see. Now, I want to talk about what this Department of Happiness might possibly do. And the first thing I think that it could do is that I think we need a what Dr. Ed Diener of the University of Illinois, who's like basically the foremost authority on happiness, described as a national index on happiness. The idea is that we have tools that can measure a person's happiness, can measure it over time, can measure it in terms of satisfactions, pleasures, etc. And these tools that we have are very accurate. They've been tested over 40 years, and they're extremely accurate, actually. We could actually benefit from tools that were more biological in nature, but nonetheless, Dr. Diener wrote an article in the January 2000 issue of American Psychologist, where he actually introduced this idea of having a national index to really measure the level of happiness of the country. And he makes a lot of sense in that article. He says also that, like, you know, we, as a country, we tend to measure and value our production, our economic production, services and all. But again, you know, because happiness is really the point of all of these things, then we really should be, you know, it makes a lot of sense to directly measure how successful we are as a government, as a people, in really achieving what is basically our foremost goal. Okay. I think the next thing that a Department of Happiness should really do is to teach our children how to be happy. I mean, right now, you know, our kids go to school for like 12 years, and they're taught a lot of important information: how to read, how to write, how to do math, you know, how to work in the world, how to succeed. And that's all very good, but again, you have kids in school for 12 years. I think that it would really be you know, not just wise, but a very good thing to do to teach them, you know, how to be happy, how to really fulfill their greatest need. You know, actually, this is important not just for happiness, but like, for example, some areas of the country really have very high dropout rates. In New York City, for example, there are some schools where the dropout rate is actually about 70%. You know, so a lot of kids are going to school, but they're not really enjoying it, and they're not benefiting from it as much as they could. So if our schools devoted time to teaching kids how to enjoy life, you know, both in school and out with their friends and with their family, then I think that you know, dropout rates could probably significantly come down. And again, you know, we want to really teach kids what to succeed at what is most important in life, and that's to be happy. Okay, something else that I think the government can get involved in is encouraging business to get into the business of happiness. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if businesses got involved in directly teaching people how to become happier. We as a people wouldn't have to devote tax dollars to the effort. I think it would be very wise and very good for us as a government, as a country, to spend our money on our greatest need. But again, you know, if business can do the job equally well or perhaps better, then that would be a good thing. Businesses have been formed in the past to teach people things. Like, for example, you have Kaplan teaching kids how to succeed with their SATs. You have Berlitz teaching languages. You have dancing schools, martial arts schools. You know, you have a lot of schools just teaching things. So again, businesses could be very instrumental in raising our level of happiness as a people, and I think our government could really help encourage that. Another kind of business that government should encourage is pharmaceutical solutions to happiness. Basically, right now we have very effective means of combating depression. A lot of antidepressant medications work very well. However, only about 4 of them, 2 specifically, Prozac and Elavil, actually help people who are already happy to become happier. And I don't think much effort has gone into that. And I think that the government could actually, you know, encourage pharmaceuticals to really, you know, just explore that. And of course, the government could really help to help businesses get started, because this is a new venture. Businesses would rightfully be somewhat wary in investing money in this because it's never been done. And so perhaps the government could encourage businesses to undertake this kind of venture through tax incentives or guaranteed loans. Okay, I think something else that the government should be doing also is to promote happiness in the media, to help the media help us as a people become happier. The problem now is that right now the media is really business. Business pretty much controls virtually all of the media, and they do that not really for the benefit of the viewers per se, but to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that really. But the idea is, we have two stations, I think, right now in cable, like C-SPAN, that devote time to like Congress, and then we do have our public, public stations, PBS. But basically, there aren't any government stations like teaching people how to like become happier. That would be a very good idea. With TV, I think it would be very significant because actually studies have demonstrated that after watching television, viewers are generally more depressed than when they began. So there is something wrong with TV. TV is also sometimes too violent. Many studies have demonstrated that the violence on TV really makes our kids more violent. And so, if we had the government become more involved in encouraging businesses to promote programming that is for the benefit of us as a people, and not giving us just what we want, but really more so what we need, I think that would be good for all of us. Okay, and again, like we have elections coming up in 2004, and I think it really should be an issue in those elections. I think in addition to health care and education and all, I think politicians hopefully could talk about happiness. Another area I think is very important, I think it's very timely right now, where government can really influence not just us here in the United States, but people throughout the whole world. That's the area of foreign policy, basically as a way to address terrorism. Traditionally, our country has exported democracy and capitalism throughout the world because they help the lives of people. Freedom helps us become happier, to enjoy life more, and capitalism raises our standard of living. And while I said that money isn't really very important as individuals, there is, though, a trend. You find that generally the more wealth a country as a whole has, the happier the population actually is. So money is influential when it comes to nations as a whole. So we've promoted these kinds of initiatives. But I think that in order to combat terrorism, I think promoting happiness would also be very wise. I mentioned, I think, a couple of shows ago that the only condition that really prevents happiness is hunger. When a person is starving, doesn't have enough to eat, it's pretty impossible to be happy. Any other condition, illness, divorce, death, any kind of situation that we find ourselves in, it actually is possible to be happy in those situations. So the idea is that, like terrorist organizations a lot of times recruit from very poor people. A lot of times they exist, these terrorist organizations, to help these people become happier. But again, the things that these people are sometimes fighting for are political freedom, religious power, greater economic prosperity. These are all great to have, but they're not necessary for happiness. And the people that terrorists recruit generally, I think, like all people, want happiness. And however that happiness can come about, I think people would appreciate it and value it. I sincerely do believe that global happiness would be probably the best deterrent to global terrorism. The terrorists are dissatisfied, and the people that that join their cause are dissatisfied, and making people happier, I think, would help make us all happier and all a lot safer. You know, it's not like we can't afford to help people become happier. I just, you know, because some people think, well, maybe we don't have enough money, but let me give you just, I'm going to briefly run through this. Basically, the United States is responsible for about 43% of the economic production of the world, and we're only 5% of the population. Our military budget next year is going to exceed the military budget of every other countries in the world put together. And with that grade of expenditure, actually, we only spend 4% of our gross national product on the military. I mean, our gross national product is really the sum of all of our productivity throughout the year. So, I mean, we're just spending 4% of that. Here's an interesting figure. In terms of foreign aid, the aid we give to countries to feed them and really help them, that figure, we give 1/1000th of 1% of our gross domestic product to, you know, on foreign aid. A lot of people think, oh, we give, you know, tremendous amounts, and sometimes we give tremendous amounts compared to other countries, or we give a lot compared to other countries, but you know, relative to how much we actually could give, because of our wealth, we basically, you know, virtually give nothing. But so anyway, we could really spend a lot more on foreign aid, our foreign policy to help people throughout the world become happier, become safer, you know, have a better world. Okay, I want to go through one of the benefits, some of the benefits that creating a happier American people would result in. Firstly, happier people are better people. They're more good. You know, that's been demonstrated through studies, many studies. And when you have good people, you basically have less crime. You know, so a good way to reduce our level of crime really would be to help people become much happier. Happier people are also healthier people. Studies have also demonstrated that when people are happier, they take care of themselves. They take care of their health. They eat better. And so, you know, healthcare is an important concern because we want to really provide healthcare for as many people as possible, but sometimes we can't really afford it. So, so to make people happier, I think, would be to make them healthier and to reduce our overall costs. Happier people are more productive. You know, the people who do things in this world are really the happy people. They have the energy, they have the enthusiasm, the motivation. And also, lastly, happy people generally enjoy life more, and other people enjoy them more. You know, happy people are much more pleasant to be with. So you know, spending the time and the effort and the money to really helping ourselves and other countries in the world to become happier, I think would benefit us in many ways. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, well, why haven't we done this? You know, why haven't we directly addressed this issue of happiness before? Well, you know, I think the answer to that is really ideas have their time. I mean, you know, there was a time for the civil rights movement, there was a time for women's rights, for environmental rights, and I think, you know, the time has not yet come for happiness, because really, you know, happiness isn't something that's very much promoted. But hopefully people will recognize and value happiness and its effect on our lives. And, you know, to the extent that we do that, I think, you know, our government could really become greatly more involved. And basically what we have to do is really ask for it. I mean, all these other movements, civil rights, women's voting rights, all these, you know, people went out and asked our politicians to basically ask our country to do these things. I mean, we are, you know, again, we are we the people are the government. So it's basically asking us as a collective to address these needs. Okay, so then, yeah, what can we do as individuals like to help have our government become more involved in our happiness? Well, you know, the presidential elections are coming in 2004, and I think that, you know, I think it would be important to have happiness be an issue, you know, rather than just dealing with the economy and other traditional political concerns, that we make happiness an issue. Really, happiness is the goal of government, it's the goal of all people, so that I think that, you know, asking politicians what they're doing to make us happier. Are they aware that that on average we're only happy 54% of the time, or that our average level of happiness is 69%? You know, are they aware of these things, or are they doing anything directly to help people become happier and enjoy life? Let's see. I think I think what we could also do is really inform politicians about the happiness research that has taken place, the research that has demonstrated that it's really relatively easy to increase a person's level of happiness in as little as 2 to 4 weeks. And this research has been documented. It's at least 20 years old. And I have a feeling a lot of politicians just aren't aware that increasing happiness is so relatively easy. So informing them about this is good. You know, it's interesting, and I forget which election it was. I don't know if it was 96 or 2000. I think it was 96. One of them. The Democrats had a slogan. You know, hey, it's the economy, stupid. Well, I don't know. I think that you know, a good economy is good, but it really is all about happiness. So you know, it really is about happiness. So that should be the focus of political campaigns to a great extent. Okay, now again, you know, a Department of Happiness sounds like an idealistic utopian goal, but really, when you consider it, it's the purpose of our life. It's the purpose of our lives. It's the purpose of government. It's why we're here. It just makes so much sense to have a department of our federal government devoted to what we want most out of life, and working directly toward that goal. Well, you know, Aristotle said that happiness is the greatest good. And so, you know, I think that's something to keep in mind as we consider this because, you know, goodness is very important to a lot of us. Okay, well, that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy our life. This is George Ortega saying, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you join me again next Thursday night at 9 p.m. here on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful, it's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.